what's your emergency? 911, what's your emergency?
Be advised, Car 4 has control of the pursuit. Proceed with caution.
Hello, everyone. Happy Saturday. Welcome to Behind the Crime Door. And I'm Kristen. For anyone who's here that's not been here before, welcome to the doors. I'm so happy that you all are joining me. I know that the NCAA tournament is alive and well, and people are watching it. So I totally and absolutely understand if this live stream doesn't have as many people in it as might otherwise. But for those of you that are here, I'm thrilled. Tonight we have joining us True Crime Web, and Steve will be here. And I'm really excited to have him on. It's been a while, and he's been super busy, super busy. And I've been a little distracted this past month as well. So we just haven't really had a chance to get together and have him back on. So I'm really glad that he'll be here with us tonight. He always brings great insight to all of the cases that we cover. And I'm anxious to find out what he's up to and what he's been working on. Hey, Tech Death, how are you, my dear? Love the new music. Thank you so much, everyone. The new music in the intro is from Tech Death Hippie, one of my moderators. If you have not had a chance to check out his channel, please make sure that you head on over there, subscribe and like, and listen to some fantastic music. CJK, always good to have you in the house. Thank you for being here. Hello, Shar. Hey, Maria, how are you, my dear? Good to see you. I hope you're having a cocktail while we are having our live tonight. Hey, Pigeon Mac, how are you? Always good to see you. Hey, Sierra, how are you? Hi, Melissa. Hey, help me, Rhonda. Good to have you here. Good to see you. Hey, country girl. How are you? Thank you so much, Rhonda. I love my sweatshirt. I do. I really, really do. Hey, Indy Pam, how are you doing? Good to see you. Hey, Mandy Ray, how are you? Good to have you with us. Hey, Rescue All the Dogs. Love the name. Thank you so much for being here. Hey, Frank Meister, how are you, my dear? Good to have you here with us. I hope you're doing well. Tonight, we're going to talk about Delphi. We're going to talk about Idaho and the Idaho Murders. We're going to talk a little bit about Flora. We're going to talk about the Stephen Smith murder and the Murders and how that may all play into something. I think you guys may have already heard, but if not, Scotty Morris was found overnight last night, alive and safe. And I did post that on my community page, but I wanted to make sure that everyone knew. I thought that was absolutely wonderful news that he is okay. The police found him 2 minutes from his house, which I thought was interesting. And he was found arguing with his mother, supposedly, standing in the middle of the street. It's not clear who called 911, but police were notified. They got to the scene. He was taken into protective custody by the Children Protective Services in Indiana, and they have placed him, I'm assuming, somewhere in foster care for now, is what I'm assuming has happened to him. And they are on top of it, it seems, and I'm happy for that. I hope they can get to the bottom of what's going on here with this boy and find out what is actually up. I'm so glad he's okay. Hey, Dave, how are you? So good to see you. Hey, CJK, that's a great idea. I'm still not 100% confident in this family. I've been kind of quiet about that, but I've been watching a lot of stuff on Twitter, and I'm not the only one that's feeling that way. And I hate to be that way, but there's just some things that aren't adding up for me. And I'm hope I'm wrong. And police say that the family is completely being cooperative. So let's hope that they get to the bottom of what's going on here. So, it's been rainy here. It was weird. I went to my Friday night game night where we play poker and stuff last night, and it was supposed to snow overnight. We didn't get any snow, but it rained like crazy, and it was cold, really cold, in the 30s, but it didn't get cold enough to snow. My heart is absolutely broken for everyone in Mississippi. I feel so bad for the loss of life that happened overnight with the tornadoes down there. The pictures that are coming out of the destruction is just horrible. Hey, Sharon, how are you? Good to see you. So good to see you. So I don't know. Steve's not here yet, so I'm assuming that he's still over on his channel. I did email him my link, so I hope he got it. I didn't hear back from him. But kind of just, but yeah, the pictures that were coming out of Mississippi and that devastation is unbelievable. I mean, there's a picture of a pile of what's left of a home, and it has two full semi tractor trailers sitting on top of it. So, oh, cool, Dave. I didn't know you had a live stream. Very cool. Or a channel, I guess. Awesome. Yeah, it sounds like it was just horrific. Hold on a second, guys. I'm just going to check, see if I can find out where Steve might be. So hang on a second, please. Hey, Thistle. How are you? Yeah, country girl. I've heard that it's heading this way and that we still may get some. Yeah, he's just ending his stream, so hopefully he'll be here. So, yeah, that's Steve, but he's got a lot of good things to talk about, so it's totally fine. I'm going to, while I'm waiting on him, talk about this. Hey Erna, how are you? Good to see you. So glad you're here with me. Thanks, Thistle. I just saw that. He'll be here. Hey Dreamscape, how are you? Welcome everyone who's coming over from Steve from True Crime Web. Welcome to Behind the Crime Door. I'm glad that you're with us this evening. I don't know if you guys heard about this case, but I'm gonna talk about it. The three Texas sisters were found in a neighbor's pond, and they were all strangled. They initially were reported to have drowned, but they were actually strangled to death. Investigators are now believing. Yet no one has been arrested in the 8-month-old case yet. Hey, Jeff F., how are you? Welcome to Behind the Crime Door. Hi, Tammy. I'm glad you're here too. Hey, Michelle C. So good to have you as well. Everyone coming over from Steve from True Crime Web, welcome. We're happy to have you. Steve is one of my close and dear friends. He is an amazing person. His channel's amazing. And I can't say enough about him and Mrs. Steve. The sisters were 9, 8, and 5. We're going to get into that case here in just a minute. Hey, Jocelyn.
I found this on the web for here in just a minute. Check it out.
Sorry, guys. My computer wants to talk to me now, I guess. Welcome, Jocelyn. Good to have you here. Hi, Jen and Mitch. Good to see you. Thank you. Hi, Grace. How are you? Thank you guys for being here. Please make sure you hit the subscribe button on your way out and the thumbs up button. That helps me with my algorithm here on YouTube, so more and more people can see my content. And Steve has just shown up backstage in the green room. I don't know if he's had time yet to take a breath and to get his coffee, but I want to make sure of that. So he's good. Hold on one second.
I'm good.
How are you?
I'm doing great. Thank you for having me tonight. It's an
Oh,
honor.
you're so welcome. I've missed you. So it was like it was time.
I have been so busy. I'm
I know
overwhelmed.
you have. You got to tell me what's going on.
I'm trying to get out to Texas. We've had 2 conflicts and still trying to get out there. We have a new date for it for May. Go out there and look for amber. And so that appears to be going correct now.
That's good.
Yes, it is. Talk to Drew, going up there on Evansdale. I know I'll be up there in July. I'll probably be up there in May also. And then I've done a couple little consulting things on some missing persons, and hopefully they turn out well. And then I've just been laying around the house creating content.
That's awesome, though. I love it. Dave just told me that you love spiders. I love spiders too.
No, yeah, Dave. Yeah,
Are
me
they
and Dave's going. When
are
me
they
and Dave sat down at the Waffle House, I'm going to discuss that with him.
Is he teasing you?
Yes, I absolutely am petrified of spiders.
Okay, I like spiders, so I guess I'm weird.
Mrs. Steve's sick sense of humor is how come I have the spider web.
Uh-huh.
That Mrs. Steve just poking the bear.
Well, I like spiders. I think that they're very interesting creatures to me, and I find them very cool. But anyway, I know how some people can be frightened by them, and I've known of a couple of people that have been bitten by brown recluses and some other nasties and had bad reactions. So I totally get it.
Oh yeah, I mean they're a predator. There's nothing, they set traps. Any animal that sets traps for their quarry, it's ultimate predators. I mean, and that's what they do. And I just there's nothing that, and I've been in, be chasing people at night through the woods and just run into a big old spider web and absolutely say, oh goodness, I've got a job to do, but how many spiders are on me, the creepy crawlies, because there's nothing worse to me than running in a big spider web in the middle of the night.
Yeah,
and that probably contributed to my issue.
To your disdain for them.
Yes.
I don't think I would like running into their cobwebs either, but I do find them fascinating to watch. And I do follow some channels on YouTube that are all about spiders. So.
Oh yeah, when I caught the suspects that made me run through the woods at night, I had some choice words for them that, you've taken 10 years off my life, not because I'm scared of you, but I just went through a spider web.
Oh man, there's you probably don't want to know this, but there's a few people on TikTok that have that, and they're women, which is surprising, but they raise jumping spiders, which are the little tiny ones, and they are so adorable. They're so fuzzy and cute.
Oh yeah, absolutely cute. Yeah, about like a grizzly bear gnawing on you.
Well, anyway, I mean, yeah, I guess there's a good thing, Steve. We don't live in Australia where all the really bad spiders are hanging out. So,
Well, we got them in Georgia.
yeah, you do. That's for sure. You do. Hey, Fusa, how are you? Um, but yeah, well, it's good that you've been busy, and I'm really thrilled to hear that you're going to make it back up here to see Drew and hopefully get more going with Evansdale. I
Oh yeah.
know that I've been looking at some stuff. The Inquisitor and I have talked about that case a lot, and about different theories and people, and where we could go with that. I still firmly believe in my gut that it is very similar to Delphi. In fact, that person is hiding in plain sight too.
I believe so.
I
And
just do.
that's part of our plan of action that we got that's coming up that we're going to be addressing May. Well, probably a lot in July, because when as they have the memorial, there'll be a lot of attention brought onto the case. And so there's a lot of things that we hope to have come to pass in July.
Interesting. Cool. Dave, thank you so much for your super sticker. I so much appreciate it. Appreciate the support. You guys are great. Hey, Kimberly Wilson, welcome. John Shepard, all of you people that are new that have come over from Steve's channel, I appreciate you all so very much.
Absolutely, you guys. While y'all are over here, hit the thumbs up and join. I appreciate it, guys.
Yep, I appreciate all of you so very much. Dave is saying that the whole spider thing was his fault and he's sorry. That's why he donated tonight.
Well, Dave usually when he comes on the morning watch, my shows have a tradition now. They start off with whatever crime topic of the night, but we usually close around what's our favorite meals at Waffle House.
There you go. I haven't been to a Waffle House in a long time. We don't have them up here in central Illinois. They're too far. They're farther south. So we have to go farther south to get them. But I do enjoy a good waffle.
Oh, yeah. Well, I mean, someone told me earlier today when I was over on another channel talking with Ruckus in chat, and I told him that Georgia's a problem. We got Shoney's. We've got all the great places.
I like Shoney's when we're traveling. Boy, a Shoney's is a good place to stop.
It is. It is. Denny's, Waffle House.
Yep.
If it's got eggs and coffee, you can't go wrong.
There you go. I'll pass on the coffee. I'll drink tea with you, but I would definitely, like I said, if it's got eggs or waffles and bacon, I'm good.
Mm-hmm.
So I had started to talk about a case. I don't know if you've heard about this case or not, but it's in Texas, and I was going to bring it up tonight because they had some major developments in it. 3 Texas sisters were found in a neighbor's pond, and they were initially to have said to have drowned, but they've now come out and said that they were actually all 3 strangled to death. And no one has been arrested. It happened 8 months ago. The sisters were 9, 8, and 5. The district attorney has revealed that authorities are treating the deaths as homicides as of now, and they urged the public to come forward with any information about what happened.
Wow. How long ago did this occur?
It happened. Their cousins, Paris Props, was responsible for watching them while their mother was at work on July 29th, 2022. But around 9 o'clock that night, Props reported the girls missing. Hours later, authorities recovered the girls' bodies from the neighbor's pond.
Wow.
Autopsies revealed evidence of strangulation and lacerations to the girls' faces. Police have conducted interviews and are testing DNA evidence, but no details were released about whether investigators have identified any suspects or potential motive. A search around the pond identified a pair of shoes, clothing scattered near the shoreline and in the water, and an abandoned bicycle was also located at the scene.
Oh,
Um,
okay. Yeah.
the cat,
If that's part of the staging, then of course we know where it's heading. But if it's not,
Mhm. Cass
because
County Sheriff said on July 30th that it was not clear why the girls would have been at the pond. We have no idea what the girls were doing there. The girl's mother is a 28-year-old woman from, what's the city? Hold on. I'm sorry. Texarkana. Described her pain on social media shortly after the deaths, writing, "Lord, please, and I mean please, I want my kids back. This hurts, and words can't explain the pain I'm going through. I just want my baby girls back in my arms." There was a GoFundMe that was launched over the summer to help raise money for these sisters' memorials. And that's pretty much all that's on here. Looks like Nancy Grace has picked the case up and has been covering it. I'm going to show here a picture of the girls so that everybody can see the three of them. But I'm going to be following this case to find out what's going on with this. Because it seems, I don't know, it just kind of hit me. It's just so tragic. All three of them were murdered. It's like, just something's not right.
absolutely.
And here's the picture of the three sisters.
Goodness, terrible.
Yep. And this is a picture of the area of where the pond was.
Yeah, strangulation is such a personal one,
Right.
crime. It's,
Right.
it's not, you have to, there's no explanation of how could you, I don't know. I'm going to have to research it myself and see where the pond is, how open it is. And which, of course, it appears that it was just a secondary, basically a dump site. They don't say if they have a reason to believe that the crimes occurred there, other than there's a bike, and why would they be there?
Exactly. Because they basically said there was no reason for them to be there.
Mhm.
But yeah, there's clothing scattered everywhere, and there's shoes. And like you said, is this a staged scene
Mhm.
or is this something more?
Okay. I'm gonna
You
look
know,
that up. Thank you.
yeah, you're welcome. When I saw it, it stuck out to me as much as Flora. I mean, I was just like, wow. I feel so bad for their mother. She's at work trying to do what she, needs to do to support her family, and her three children are murdered.
Yeah.
Yeah, it seems
It takes time to, strangulation is not quick.
right.
And then you have three victims. And so it takes a great amount of control to control three victims and strangulation. And how is that possible?
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of stuff to be answered on that.
Yeah, for sure. And they don't even say much about the cousin that was supposed to be watching them. They don't say how old she is or anything. So I don't know. It's just, there's obviously a lot of questions. And the fact that they were the original 8 months ago, they said that they were drowned, or that they drowned. They didn't really say anything about them being strangled until a few days ago. So that was kind of odd as well. But anyway, yeah, I want to follow this case. So I thought we
Absolutely.
would introduce it tonight and talk about that. So
Sure.
I'm
all yours.
I know. Have you heard the stuff that's going on with Idaho and Koberger? I wanted to talk to you about a couple of different things, just get your mindset on it. I know that there have been a lot of people making a big deal about the fact that he's attending church every Sunday, and he's
I hope he is.
He's got TV he's got his own personal television in his cell. He's separate from the other 20 inmates. I think they said there's only like 20 inmates in that county jail currently. He's like 21. And the rest of them are in a pod where they're all together when they watch television, but he's not. He is kept in his cell. So I know they're probably doing that for his own protection, but there's a lot of people that are upset. He has control of the TV, it seems. So he gets to choose what everybody watches, and he has been watching all of his coverage. I guess he is really big on watching everybody talking about him. And I thought that spoke a lot about himself, but I guess, if you're...
That's kind of narcissistic, I would think. That'd hit that qualifier.
Yeah, because I'm like, I guess you would be interested in what was being said about you if you were arrested for quadruple homicide, but I don't know. They just said he seems obsessed with it.
Do we know what the girls' names of the homicide are?
Madison Mogan, Kaylee Gonsalves.
No, I'm talking about in Texas. I'm sorry.
Oh, I'm sorry. In Texas?
Yes.
Okay, so there's a 9-year-old, and it's Ziariel. It's ZI''ARIEL Robinson Oliver. And then her 8-year-old sister, Amaya, A''MIYAH Hughes.
Okay.
And 5-year-old Tamari, TE'Mari Robinson Oliver.
Okay. Yeah. And then, Madison and Xana and
Kaylee.
And yes. It's absolutely amazing. All the victims are out there. I just didn't know about the Texas. I'm sorry, I didn't clarify that. I didn't know their names, and I was curious about that. I'm gonna look them up, see what relationship they are. It's absolutely sad. And then
I was very, like I said, blown away by their story, and I really wanted to cover their case.
Yeah.
So I'll be definitely doing that. But
with Kohlberger, of course, you have his narcissistic values, and absolutely, hopefully that case it gets fast tracked.
Yeah, for sure. I just want to let everybody know in the chat, if you do have questions or whatever, I am highlighting those, and we will, Steve and I will go over those at the end of the show.
Sure.
So just so you guys all know, that's how we do that here. I did get I found, I should say, Steve, the TV station ID came up with a timeline for Idaho, and they put it out online, and it's really interesting.
Okay.
They have listed that in late October of 2022, Kohlberger reportedly sent several unanswered messages to one of the victims on social media. There's also rumor out there that there is a possibility that he reached out to one of them on Tinder, and there may possibly have been a Tinder date between him and one of them. So that's out there as well. And I don't know if there's no verification of any of that, but I found that very interesting if that was the case, especially if he did reach out on a Tinder dating app and was rebuked or turned away or whatever. That could have created anger and rage. So,
well, when you're dealing, regardless, and yes, you're right, for the fact that his anger and rage is based upon not just that one turn down of the Tinder date, because you're dealing with individuals, and it's not just Kohlberger, but a lot of these individuals, they have their own relationship. You may think it was just the first time they've ever spoke to you, but they could have been stalking you for a long time, and they have a relationship with you that is You know, you have been the apple of their eye for months and months, and willingly been a participant in their relationship, and you have no idea. You don't even know who this individual is. But that's the issue of dealing with some of these psychopaths, and that what you're as the victim thinks of the relationship has nothing to do with what the offender thinks the relationship is.
No, exactly. On November 12th, the victims went out to a party at a bar that Saturday night, and Maddie and Kaylee were seen on surveillance footage at a food truck. We've all probably at this point seen that footage. On November 13th, the victims were murdered in the early morning hours at their home. Chapin was staying overnight with his girlfriend, it seems, even though he was not supposed to be able to do that. But 2 other roommates were at home at the time but were unharmed, and authorities believe they were murdered sometime around 4 a.m. The 911 call came in from a surviving roommate around noon that day. Now, have you heard the new information that's out there where they're talking about this DoorDash order? And the
Not the new
DoorDash,
information, no.
okay, so DoorDash supposedly delivered food
Yes. Uh-huh.
to the house at around 4 a.m.
Yes.
And the murders, they think, happened somewhere between 4:10 and 4:20, 4:24, or what, something like that.
Uh-huh.
Well, there's some theories out there that have been talked about with this whole DoorDash order. What if, and I'm just throwing this out here for whatever, but to see what your thoughts are, but there are people saying, what if Brian was the DoorDash driver? Or what if Brian was the person who placed the DoorDash order?
Mm-hmm.
Because he was there. I mean, he was there and went into that house within minutes of that DoorDash order being delivered, which is what they're saying is kind of odd. If you're going to go there to murder someone, why would you do that knowing that there was food being delivered?
I would think that if he was the one that delivered the food, that would have been part of the affidavit, because that would be such a huge a link to the residence.
Mm-hmm.
And if they had evidence at the time, that doesn't mean they haven't developed the evidence that he made the order. But if they had evidence of that, because they would have checked at that. If they knew that DoorDash,
There's
there should be a verification process.
Yeah, there's a new search warrant that was issued to DoorDash to
Mhm.
get the information about the driver, the car, all of it. It's out online now, a search warrant.
Mhm.
Yeah,
I saw where the judge has closed down all the, I mean, absolutely locked down and redacted and sealed all those search warrants for all these companies online and otherwise. So that, which I can understand. I mean, this is such a high profile case, and we have to protect not only the offender from any apparent look of railroading him, but also the people that's going to be testifying in the court. Because, like I said, following the Constitution, you're innocent until proven guilty, and we have to follow those guidelines, or it'll be overturned, and we'll be right back where we're at now. And regardless of how guilty he is, but yeah, it's
I just
but I
thought
think if they had the evidence of that, they would have put that in the affidavit.
Okay, I wondered about that, but I thought I figured they would know right away, or within a certain reasonable amount of time, if DoorDash had to respond to a search warrant, they would know right away if it was his car or whether or not it was him, that was posing as the driver. I didn't feel that was too likely, even though that's some of the theory that's out there online. But what I thought was interesting was the timing of when they're saying this order happened, and the fact that it seems like it was Xana and Ethan who placed the order, which explains why they were still awake at that time,
Sure.
obviously. And I don't know. I just think it's gonna be interesting.
Oh, absolutely. It is interesting. And it is a huge coincidence that it did happen at the same time. And was there something that he had been able to, did Xana or them put on there, hey, I just ordered DoorDash? Was that part of her social media stuff? I can't wait. I'm hungry. I'm awake. I don't know what her presence prior to DoorDash getting there and what information college kids put out at night. Hey, I just got back from a party and I ordered me some food. And was that the thing that that he's tracking the residents, and he sees that social media post, and he knows that at a certain time there's going to be a window of opportunity that they possibly doors will be unlocked or otherwise.
Yeah. And that's what I thought too. What if he did come right through the front door? I mean, if he saw the food, even if he was there and he saw the DoorDash delivery, he knew somebody was awake.
Yeah. Well, I mean, but like I said, he may have realized that an hour earlier if she went on, because I think there's a certain amount of delay that she may have went on her social media and said, hey, I've ordered some food. He'll be here in a little bit. And he instantly went and waited for that opportunity. I mean,
Right.
there's so many different ways that you could speculate and look at it, and don't know which will be the truth, but hopefully law enforcement will figure it out.
Yeah, no kidding. Hey, Isla X, thank you so much for being here. So happy to have you.
Yes, appreciate everybody that came over.
And congratulations to whoever gifted the memberships. Thank you so much. And congratulations to everyone. I so appreciate it, you guys. And Thistle, they may very well have interviewed the driver. I was just throwing that out because I've seen that on Twitter. People have been talking about it, and it's been just recently it's gotten a lot of traction. So I was just interested in getting Steve's opinion on that.
Yeah, I mean, when we gather intel, if we're doing certain things, that if we're about to serve a warrant on someone a high profile or a risk, we don't want to go, and we may monitor certain things about them, which back when we were doing it, we didn't have all the social media that we have now. But I know that if I was a part of a current SWAT team, that I would monitor the social media, that when they were up and they were expecting food, that would not be a time we'd go serve the warrant. We'd wait until they were asleep and didn't have any food planned coming. And so that we could have, if you're doing those high risk warrants, it'd be right the opposite. And did that play a part in this narcissistic offender's fantasy of going in there while people were awake? Because certain things drive these people. It's not what always we think, it's what they think. And it always is what they think.
And most of the time it doesn't make sense to most of us because
we're not looking at it from
we
their
don't think
fantasy.
of it that way. Right. Yeah. Thank you so much, Fusa, for the generous donation of those memberships. Everyone appreciates it, I'm sure. And thank you so much for always being here supporting us. I'm just looking to see what everybody's talking about here. And Sharon says that the DoorDash vehicle would have been seen on the video from the camera down the street. Well, I'm assuming so. I'm assuming that they have that since they have video of him driving as well, his car. So I would assume that they would be able to tell that. Hey, Josh the Posh, thank you so much for being here.
Hey, Josh.
Always good to see you.
Oh, I see a lot of people in chat. I appreciate.
Oh yeah, you brought a lot with you tonight. So on November 17th, the county coroner in Idaho ruled the deaths a homicide via stabbing. We know that. And on November 30th, they held a vigil at the University of Idaho for the families and for the victims. And they also set up a GoFundMe campaign for the students' families, and that raised tens of thousands of dollars. And a memorial scholarship was established. On December 7th, police asked for help finding the Hyundai Elantra that was seen near the scene of the crime. And when he was arrested, of course, his Hyundai Elantra was seized. On December 15th, he was stopped twice in Indiana for traffic violations. Both times he was let go with a warning. There's been speculation on whether or not that was planned. The FBI has said no. So who knows? December 3rd. What do you think about that?
Well, it may not have been the FBI. It could be the marshals. It could be, and I would imagine more than likely than anything, it would, if FBI, of course, they have certain units out there, but the marshals, that group of individuals showed up in the middle of the night one night that went to that residence, screamed a specialized unit, the ones with a cowboy hat. That you don't, some of those units that do some of this surveillance stuff, that's what they are. They don't wear uniforms and they don't drive marked cars.
Yeah, exactly. I thought it was just strange how he got pulled over twice in such a short amount of time.
And there could be reasons to check for the safety or security of
right. And who did he have with him in the car?
Yeah.
That there was probably a lot of reasons. Although I think they may have known that his dad was with him. So hard to say. But anyway, on December 30th, he was arrested at his parents' home in Chestnut Hill Township in Pennsylvania. We know that they did the raid and they found him sitting in the kitchen and he was placing garbage into Ziploc baggies wearing gloves, rubber gloves. So his garbage, I should say, not just garbage, but his garbage.
Yes.
So that was I think that's pretty telling as to what he was doing there. On January 1st, the Koberger family issued a statement saying that they were sad for the victims and would cooperate fully with law enforcement. And on January 3rd, he agreed to be extradited to Idaho. On January 4th, he arrived in Idaho and was taken into custody by authorities. He's being held without bond on 4 counts of murder and 1 count of burglary. On January 12th, Koberger appeared in court for his preliminary hearing, and his attorney asked that the hearing be set for June. And so it's been set for June 26, 2023, for a probable cause hearing. The probable cause hearing is supposed to last about 5 days. Now, one of the things that's happened since then that I don't know if you heard about or not, but the state of Idaho has recently entered a new law stating they're going to bring back the firing squad because there's been so much problems getting the drugs needed for the injections to do that form of capital punishment. And so, and not to mention the fact that they've had issues in the past with it not working right away, which has been found to be inhumane. So they are bringing back firing squad in Idaho at this point in time.
Yeah. The inhumane is absolutely something that is ridiculous.
Yeah.
You want to know inhumane? Look at the address of where the victims live. That's inhumane.
Yeah, exactly. That whole, when you stop to think of how he chose to murder again. He's suspected of this,
Yeah.
but how they chose to murder these 4 individuals by stabbing. You said it earlier in the previous case we were talking about, at how personal strangulation is. So is stabbing.
It
Am
is,
I
yes.
not
I mean,
correct?
hands-on, anything, yes,
Yeah.
absolutely, hand to hand, absolutely. I had an attorney represent me one time in where I was assaulted, and of course, the individual sued me for defending myself, and but he, my attorney gave me the best advice I ever had in my life. He says that when you have to, or you're put in a position to be able to use lethal force, the offender loses all constitutional rights. Anything you do to him less than killing him is a plus, and it benefits him. And and I agree with that, and his way of defending me with that thought process, for the fact that you can take that to also for these people that commit such horrendous crimes that they've lost all protection of the Constitution, that I don't think that they should even be, and this is just me speaking, it's not what your channel, I don't know if you're for or against death penalty. I'm for, but that once you're sentenced to that, I think all, as far as inhumane, it should not be a part of the picture. That's just my opinion.
Yeah, no, I think what's inhuman to me, this is how I feel about, I think the death penalty, if it's going to be used, needs to be completely revamped, because this whole thing of allowing them to sit on death row for 20 and 25 and 30 years is ridiculous. All of these appeals that take forever to get through. When you commit a person to death and to die by lethal injection or whatever, I think it needs to be done. I mean, it needs to be done within a timely manner. Saves money. You end up paying all this money to house these criminals. Anyway, you're not, what are you saving by keeping them on death row for all of these years? But with that, that's I guess a conversation for another day.
And it's so controversial.
It is.
Both ways, either, and you're never going to take one person from one spectrum and bring them over to the other. You're on either you're for or against, and it's
right.
And it's just that I've seen so many innocent, absolutely innocent victims, and I'm talking about just children that have suffered so much at the hands of these animals, that I feel more compassion for a dog than I do for them.
No, exactly. And like when you start looking into crimes against children and you look at these innocent babies and these innocent lives that have never done anything in their life to even become close to deserving the abuse and the maltreatment and the physical pain and the emotional pain that they endure at the hands of, a lot of times, people who are supposed to protect them, people who are empowered to protect them. A lot of times it's those people that are doing this kind of stuff. I'm right there with you. Yeah. Throw away the key.
I've had a lot of people, and I can look you in the eye and tell you, I had people try to kill me, and, and I've been there, and it's not a good feeling knowing that the man that you're absolutely in a life and death struggle for you will kill you with your own weapon. But now I'm not complaining for the fact that I took the job, and I did my job best of my ability. But I know what some of these victims felt like in that moment of balance. Am I going to survive this? And so I can speak to this from first person. And so from that standpoint, and like I said, there's a lot of officers out there that didn't survive and haven't survived, and it's it's so for those, and there's and it's just like I said, it's just not law enforcement. We have military personnel and everything. I give highest honor to they absolutely what they do for this country, protecting us. And there's thousands of people out there that have faced life and death situation and have survived, but it's not a good feeling.
No. And to be a victim, and to go through something horrific and traumatic and come out on the other side with your life, and this person basically get, to live out their life. And I don't know. I as a mother who's lost a child, I feel like anybody who does anything like that to children doesn't deserve to be here anymore. They are not part of a civilized society. They've chosen to not be a part of our civilized society by their behavior. And I don't believe that these child abusers and criminals that hurt children can be rehabilitated. I'm tired of hearing that, because almost every single time they're let out, they reoffend. And it's just like, why do we continue to allow that to happen?
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
So that's my stance on it.
And like I said, and I appreciate everyone that's on the opposite end of it, because
I do too. I understand both sides. I do.
Absolutely.
I do.
Yep.
Because again, being a Christian as I am, I also believe that it's not our place to take life. So it's very difficult to have that when you're sitting here seeing what you witnessed as a police officer. It makes you as a human being, it's like where, you have every right to feel the way you feel because of what you have to witness. We don't see that. A lot of people who have the opinions have never even seen the photographs or anything close to what you've seen.
Oh yeah, and there's people out there saying far worse than what I have.
And, I'm sure.
Yeah, and but I had a great career. I will never complain about my career, and coming out victorious is actually very exciting. I can tell you that too. That you'll never. The relief that you feel once you win that battle is something also that is very memorable.
Yeah, exactly. For sure. So, well, it'll be interesting to see, because they haven't come out and said that they're going to charge or make it a death penalty case. I think it will be, but that's just how I'm feeling. We don't know that for sure. So now, let's see, moving along. That's what I wanted to talk on there. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about Delphi, because I thought we could talk. There's been a lot of new creators out there, and I've been watching some of them and some of the stuff that they've been talking about. And you and I have talked about Delphi a lot, and we pretty much have the same opinion when it comes to Richard Allen. And I did a live the other night about how Richard Allen was his own alibi, because Richard Allen had to go to authorities and tell them, yeah, I was there. Yeah, I was wearing a blue Carhartt jacket that day and blue jeans. Yeah, I was, yeah. I mean, what that man did and what he said really placed him right smack dab in the middle of the crime, in our opinion. And I still have trouble with everyone who says that just because he was on the bridge doesn't mean he was involved. How can you not see that when he was on the bridge at the same time that the girls were getting ready to cross the bridge?
Well, and he denies seeing the girls.
Exactly.
He denies seeing the woman that says he was on the bridge that corroborated his story. And everything else says that the timeline the photos that the victims took, the images, the video, everything that they did supports. I mean, they're being victims. Even the fourth witness that saw him on the bridge, it says that he's on that first platform. And I think the only thing that saved her were Libby and Abby. I think that if he had followed her to her parking lot in her car, I think he would have abducted her at the parking lot. I do. But when he saw Libby and Abby going, that he turned around and decided them.
Yeah. And I, I think that you're very, very possibly right, unless he was stalking the girls.
Yes, that's the only, and if we don't have evidence of that,
Yeah.
If there is evidence of that, then of course that is the case. But he may have still given up on them and was going to take advantage of the other opportunity.
Yeah, for sure. Grace, thank you so very much. I lost my son. He was 4 to cancer. And so it's not the same as having a child who's been murdered, but I do know what it's like to bury your child. And that's where that's coming from. It's just like I can see how families would feel losing their child in some horrific manner by the hands of someone else. I can see where they want the ultimate payment to be paid. And I will never, ever say that they're out of line for feeling that way.
And I've seen families that have forgiven, and they
Yep.
don't want the death penalty, and I
Yeah.
can never argue against what the family wants. They
No,
paid the price.
I think it should be up to the families to
Absolutely.
decide what they want in that regard. You just have to look at the Chris Watts case, and the Shanann Watts and her children. I thought for sure that was going to be a death penalty case, and as it turns out, they did not want it. The family said, no, we don't want him killed. We want life in prison. So,
yeah, I can't argue. I mean, whatever the family wants on that. And I'm not going to be pretentious enough to say that my opinion is the right one always. It's not.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. For sure. But so yeah, I am still one of those people where it comes to Richard Allen that we cannot get past the fact that he was there. He was on the bridge. The timeline is so tight between the time the video is taken and the time the girls are told to go down the hill. He has to be right there. He's involved. He looks just like Bridge Guy. In my opinion, he's put himself with the same clothes as Bridge Guy, so it'll be really interesting to see what happens in court with this. How do you feel? And I'm sure you heard about it this week about Kagan Klein taking a plea, or pleaing out, and didn't take a plea, wasn't offered a plea by the state. He's just changing his plea to guilty. From not guilty.
Well, we'll see where, and I've always said that regardless, and it doesn't matter, and it will be regardless, that this animal that takes joy in looking at photographs of young children will never serve enough time. In my eyes. So whatever his sentence is, it's not enough for me that you would have, because it's individuals like him that feed the seed that these other people will go out there and create that type of crime, CSAM. So without him being a participant, and how far he went in certain cases, don't know. And how far would he have gone? We don't know, because you can't change that type of orientation as far as your fantasy. And I have absolutely no use for them. I've dealt with them most of my life. When they see a potential victim, I've seen a man attack a child on a beach with 100 parents present, but he couldn't. His drive was so strong that he had to assault that child, and but he paid the price for that. But the parents didn't appreciate it, and they took the and did the right thing and held him until we got there. But yeah, there's those animals, and like I said, Keegan will never serve enough time, even if whatever his sentence is, he may be out in a year, or he may get time served and probation. We don't know what the courts will do with him.
Yeah, no, exactly. We don't. And I've heard people say, well, he's done this, he's pled guilty. This was all expected to happen because now that they're waiting for this case to be over so that they can actually include him in the Delphi case. And I'm just like, maybe so, who knows? I don't see that, but that's just me. Again, just my opinion. I could be totally and absolutely wrong. So yeah, Deborah, I talked about it at the very beginning of my show. For those of you that did not know, Scotty Morris was found safe. He was 2 minutes from his home. He was found with his mother arguing in the middle of the street. There has been no law enforcement speak on this as far as why or what was going on or who called 911 or anything, but there was a 911 call placed. Dispatch got it. That is out there. You can actually hear when the officer gets the call from dispatch that he's been found where he's at. And they did take him and put him in Child Protective Services custody. So he was not just left with his family. Now, what that means, I don't know. Maybe Steve could speak maybe to that. I don't know. But all I can say is that I'm glad he's safe. They took him to the hospital to have him, checked out. And I think we will find out maybe at some point what happened. And we may not ever truly know what happened.
Yeah, I'm sure the protective services are going to do investigations, and hopefully they perform better than what some child protective services have done in the past.
Yeah, exactly. Because I find it very strange that he was found 2 minutes from his house. After all of this time, that kind of boggled me. I was like, was he on his way back home? Did he go somewhere, and then decided to go back home or what? It just seems weird. There was people looking for him everywhere. There was a mass search. They just had a vigil for him in that area. Night before last, I think it was. And Randy Gravitt went to it and had it on his channel. So yeah, I don't know, but I'm just happy that he is.
Absolutely.
Well, it was a good outcome. We don't get the good outcomes enough. And so I'm really glad that
yeah, I mean, we know he's safe now. What will it take to ensure that, and what type of issues that have to be addressed for him in his future?
Yeah. Jocelyn's right. Pedophiles deserve a life sentence. They seem to only get a light sentence and a life sentence. They seem to only get a light sentence and then they reoffend. And the only way to fix that is to change the laws. Because that's, they've got to change the law and what the penalties are for these offenders, because this is just ridiculous, in my opinion. We've got people going to prison for smoking marijuana for life. And we've got people who have abused and murdered children that get 15 years for good behavior. And I'm just like, there's something wrong with that picture, in my opinion. So,
as a country, we have our failures.
We certainly do. We need to definitely be fixing that at some point in time. But again, that's on a local level. You've got to step up and, talk to your local law enforcement people and start talking to your senators and your representatives locally in your local government and let them know you're not happy with the way these criminals are being sentenced, so that people can start talking to your state legislatures and getting this changed. It's just, I don't know. One of the things I thought was interesting is I found an article about Delphi this week when I was looking through stuff where they were saying that actually Richard Allen's wife sparked a domino effect for DNA evidence. And an FBI agent has said this because his own admissions, as we've talked about, this person, this FBI agent feels it's actually Paul Keenan, who is the ex-FBI special agent that was in charge of the case for 2 years. And he said that when Richard Allen placed himself at the scene wearing the clothes that the bridge guy was wearing that day, and then his wife admitted to police or to law enforcement that yes, he still owns a blue Carhartt jacket, which still might have DNA evidence on it.
Yes, absolutely.
So they were talking about that could be his undoing.
I'm
The
hoping,
fact-
I mean, if we have DNA, then of course, that'll take care of some of the issues about the unspent round that was found,
Right.
and won't have to rely upon it as much.
Because we were talking, you and I've talked about this so many times, but one of the things that we've talked about is the fact that, yeah, the unspent round was found between the girls. And that's very unusual to find that there. And especially when you have Richard Allen in his own words saying, I don't loan my gun out to anyone. I don't let anyone borrow it. I never do. Never have, never would. And no, I've never been over there. He told them that he had never been on that side of or over in that area of where the girls were found. So if he's placed himself never being there, no one's ever had his gun or access, how would this bullet get there?
Oh yeah. Well, I mean, you're going to have people that will come up with whatever speculation and say that, well, they were out. The girls had found it on the trail, put it in their pocket and dropped it there on their own. And it just happened to be the guy that was on the bridge at the time they crossed it.
But, the chances of that happening are probably nil to none.
I know,
but I know.
And I can't really fault them for doing that, because I appreciate it for the fact it makes me slow down and realize that yes, we do have enough evidence that is not a perfect argument.
Right. Yeah, I don't feel that that's going to be, even if for whatever reason that ends up not being allowed in as evidence. I'm not saying that it would or wouldn't, but if that happened, I still think that there is an absolutely enough circumstantial evidence, and we're going to have direct evidence from eyewitness testimony that he's done. I mean, in my opinion, I just think it's going to be really hard for them to counter what he said in his own words.
Mm-hmm. Oh yes. Oh, he painted himself into a corner, and for what, and hopefully it will, justice will be found for the girls. That's all we can hope for.
Yeah, I know. So moving on, I wanted to talk to you about a case that I am covering and find extremely strange. And I think you are very interested in it as well. Let's talk about the Stephen Smith case down in South Carolina, the 19-year-old student in 2015 who was found in the middle of a country road, laying in the middle of the road, deceased. His shoes were still on. He was wearing shorts and a t-shirt, I believe.
Yes.
And he had head injury. In fact, the officers who found him and came to the scene thought he had been shot in the head.
Correct.
And that's what they thought. Well, it was eventually ruled a hit and run. And even though there were many law enforcement officials who didn't believe that, his shoes were still on him. Usually if you are hit by a vehicle and you're wearing shoes, your shoes are going to be knocked off of you, from what I understand. You can speak to that better than me. But immediately after his death, the rumors started floating around that were linking him to Buster Murdaugh, who is Alex Murdaugh's oldest son. For those that aren't familiar, Alex Murdaugh was just found guilty of killing his wife and his youngest son, Paul. Paul and Buster both went to school with Stephen Smith. Buster Smith was in the same class with Stephen, and they even played on the same baseball team. There's a lot going on here, and there's a ton of stuff to unpack in this case. But like I said, it was deemed a hit and run in 2015. A year later, his mother wrote a letter and basically was begging them to do something about this, that this was not a hit and run. Her son was murdered, and that there was something seriously wrong with the case. And why was that nothing happening? She brought up Buster Murdaugh. She said that people were coming up to her and telling her that the Murdaughs were involved. And
the most shocking, surprising thing to me about this whole case is that not that the mother is the one that was the biggest fighter for her son and saying that he did not die of a traffic accident. There was a homicide. And she had a state agency, the troopers of South Carolina, that says, we agree with you, ma'am. This was not an accident.
Yep.
And yet her pleas fell upon deaf ears. Makes no sense to me. Whereas the one agency that doesn't have homicide investigators is handling a homicide investigation. And they can't get the agencies that have homicide investigators to work on it. Absolutely, the world's upside down, and I understand her frustration. And for all these years, she, with the support of the troopers, because when you read some of the notes, and that's something about my community, they have been, I don't know if I'll ever get through all the files and links and things they've sent me. And I've learned so much in the last 9-10 days, or whenever I first started on this case, about the uphill battle that Mrs. Smith has had. Mm-hmm. And even with the support of the State Patrol of South Carolina, she still couldn't get help from the appropriate agencies. And I find that sad. And I applaud the State Patrol, absolutely applaud, because in some of the notes were and I know when the law enforcement officer says, I went there and tried to hand them the file and they wouldn't take it by hand. I know why, you just put it on the desk and left. That's police speak. You may not want this, but I'm going to give it to you. And, and then leave. And that's so sad that we still haven't progressed past the point that, and you see this so often, that, it's not like the NCIS that you see on TV or the Hawaii, whatever your favorite police show is, that everybody comes together and everybody's happy and they sing great songs and go off and catch bad guys.
Yeah.
That's not the world of it, that you have the administrative part of every agency that fights the others because they're all on a budget. They have limited resources and they want to, and they do pass the buck. You don't see that so much with the, as I call, dirt road deputies or lower parts of the enforcement. They work together. The boots on the ground, they don't care. There's a bad guy there. Let's go get him. But the administrative part of it is more of the issues. And I hate that for any, and it's just not South Carolina. It's across the country.
Well, he was found with his iPhone and his car keys still in his pocket.
Yes.
And his car was found about 2 miles from the scene of where he was.
Yes.
And it was parked off the road, and the gas tank door was open, and the gas cap was hanging down as well. And as you stated, the highway patrol officer who came to the scene, who was identified as Booker, said this appeared to be a homicide to him. This was not a hit and run in any way,
At first
shape, or
it was
form.
declared a homicide.
Yeah.
And then when it went to the pathologist, it became a car wreck.
Yes.
And now 8 years later, it's become a homicide.
And the early report said he had a gunshot wound above his eye, above his eyebrow, and he had a defensive wound to one of his hands. They said that he was blunt force trauma. He had been beaten or hit in the head with something.
Yeah.
And later that same day, the following day, there was an autopsy done by a pathologist named Aaron Presnell, who ruled that he was killed by a hit and run. Now, I don't understand, I guess, in my mind, how that can even be possible. When you have investigators saying this is a murder, this is a homicide, this is not a hit and run. There's nothing about this scene that says anything about a hit and run. There were no tire marks. There was nothing that
debris field.
Yeah, there was no debris field. There was nothing. If a car had hit him, there would have been some sort of evidence of that, and there wasn't.
No. And, when I first looked at it, I think my first show, I'm going, actually, the day that it came out that they declared it was homicide was my first coverage of it. And someone in chat said, hey, they just said this was a homicide. I said, well, I'm glad they're on board finally. Just by coincidence, it was the first day that I opened up with my channel about the Stephen Smith case. And for the fact that I didn't think it was getting the attention it deserved. And I still don't think it's getting the attention it deserves.
It isn't.
It will. But it will.
And I think it's because he was gay. And that's just my opinion. I do believe that these marginalized victims tend to not get the same kind of coverage. Now, I thought that he would get some coverage simply because they had linked the Murdaugh name to his case, and that would make this thing really big. And there was some bit about it, but even in that, it hasn't blown this up. I think people should be outraged at the fact that this has been hidden for all of these years, for 8 years, as a hit and run. And now, after the Murdaugh verdict, they come out and they say, no, this isn't a hit and run. This is homicide. They finally changed their tune. Yep. It rings for me when you go back to this county in South Carolina. The Murdaughs owned that county. They were the law in that county. Period.
They were a dynasty.
For a very long time, over 100 years or more. They were the law. They were the prosecutors, solicitor, whatever. They had their own law firm, and everybody knew them and I think feared them.
Well, and we don't know if they're involved in this one.
Right. We don't.
No. But, and what do we, and where do we go from here? The most disappointing part to me is that, from my standpoint, was the fact that you had a mother screaming, I want help. And you had the support of a law enforcement agency saying, yes, she is correct. We need support. We are not. That interview that was on last week where one of the troopers that was first on the scene says, "We're not homicide investigators." That is from the heart. That should tell us, yes, we need something to fix that. People need to step up to the plate, and the ones that didn't need to be held accountable.
And see, the thing that gets me with it is, they talk about this South Carolina Highway Patrolman Thomas Moore, who had a really heated conversation with Presnell, the
Yes.
person, the woman who did the
Yeah.
autopsy, and said, this is wrong. This isn't, this isn't right. And she's like, well, there was no gunshot wound.
Yeah.
And, you thought there was a gunshot wound. Well, there wasn't. And he's like, and she's like, well, he was in the road. And so if he's laying in the road, it's more than likely a hit and run. And that, I mean, to me, there was just so many things that just springs red flags to me all the way around this. And the only reason I bring up Murdaugh is because if I agree with you with the mother and what she was trying to get someone to help her, but I feel the same way about the boating accident case with brother Paul. Yeah. It's like they ran to immediately, the grandfather and the grandfather and Alex ran to the hospital that night and basically told everybody to be quiet, not to talk. They didn't want anything to come out about who was driving that boat that night. And it was just like they were doing everything they could do to protect Paul. Yeah. And as far as throwing one of Paul's good friends under the bus and saying he was the driver of the boat that night when he wasn't. And to me, if they're willing to do that, if they were involved in this, they would certainly cover this up. Now, whether or not they would get a person to, do an autopsy and say that it was a hit and run, I don't know. That's really going out there. You would think not, but something, it doesn't smell right here to me. Yeah, and 8 years. It took 8 years. I don't blame
a parent for wanting to protect their child.
Oh, good not. No.
She deserves. I do blame the system that allows a parent to exercise that above the laws of the land.
Yeah, no, Sandy Smith deserves every.
I'm talking about the Murdaughs. I don't really even blame Alex and them trying to protect their child. It's just that the power given to them that allowed that is what's the issue. That
yes, the protecting him is fine, but lying for him is not, and covering up for him is not. No. And he had a severe drinking problem. They were aware of it. They facilitated it.
Absolutely. And that's what's wrong, is that we allow that in this country, that a family become that powerful that the laws don't apply to them. And that's the sad part.
And I think that that's kind of what I don't know. I don't live in South Carolina, so I don't know. But the things I've been reading, the people that lived in that county, that's how they kind of saw it, that they were kind of above the law and that the laws didn't really pertain to them.
I want to go over there. It's only about 4.5 hours for me. I want to go over there, but I'll probably need bond.
That would be interesting if you were able to go over there. That would definitely be interesting.
Yeah, I'm looking at one aspect of it that makes no sense of where that vehicle was parked and how it was parked. That is very concerning, and I think not only do we have the crime scene of where he was found, but I believe the car is another crime scene also, and because it makes no sense from my standpoint.
I believe something happened to him, and I don't know if somebody was stalking him or somebody just happened to be, by him after he had his issue with his vehicle. I don't know, but it doesn't, to me, I know that everybody wants to, go out there, but I'm like, was he being stalked by somebody that knew he was gay, that, didn't like it? Is, one of these people that, is absolutely against that lifestyle, and this is a hate crime. I mean, that to me, there's a possibility of that. I know that the rumor was that the Murdaugh boys were out with a baseball bat, knocking down mailboxes.
Mhm.
Now, if that was true and they came upon him, like I said, Buster had a relationship with this person. He knew him. He played baseball with him on the same team. They went to school together. So it wasn't like he didn't know him at all. I just can't see him all of a sudden of somebody who was his teammate going up and killing him. I mean, that doesn't make sense here. That's just my feeling. Now, what does make sense is that somebody had an issue with him and wanted to end his life. Whether it was just a disgruntled person he had a relationship with, or whether it was a stranger, or whether, he was just seen and it was an easy target. I just don't know.
Well, like I said, it's a very interesting case, and I will have never been aware of it. And it's strange. Richard Allen case is what drove me to the Murdaugh case.
Yeah.
And now the Murdaugh case has driven me to the Smith case.
Murdaugh's what got me to look at Smith, because when I was watching the trial and they kept talking about in the stuff, they kept talking about, well, now it's going to be Buster's time with the Stephen Smith stuff. And I'm like, who is Stephen Smith and what are they talking about? So when I went searching for it, I was floored what I found.
Yeah. The firearm, the bullet from Richard Allen, and I was looking at cases that were being held at on the expert analysis of bullet analysis and then the Murdaugh popped in, and so I looked and watched that and watched their expert to see how the courts was going to address that junk science, and which they upheld it in the Murdaugh stuff, and so and that's what got me interested in it.
Yeah, I was very interested in that too, because the everything with the guns in that case, and the ballistics, it was also very interesting, and to watch how it was presented on the stand. I wanted to see how all that was presented. Hey, Brian from Tampa, how are you? Good to see you. I wanted to
I got
see how
tickled at that expert in South Carolina when when they was trying to the defense asked the worst question you never asked of an expert. He asked the expert, "Are you aware of a certain study?" The expert said, "Yes, I was part of that study."
part of that study.
And so you, at that point, you pretty well have lost your case.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I've always heard you don't ever ask a question of a witness that you don't already know the answer to.
Yeah, that was priceless to me. It still brings a smile deep to my heart.
The family also said that Stephen was skittish, and he would have never been walking down the middle of a road or a highway or whatever.
And if that's the case, if we are skittish at 1 to 4 o'clock in the morning, we're broke down the side of the road. Does his phone work? And it's not that he has to wake up his family. I understand that. Sometimes you may not want to wake up your family, but you can call 911. You can call a record driver. You can call a lot of different people to help you, or you can call a friend, your circle of friends. And that wasn't done. And if I know the mother says that he's skittish, and but did he feel that comfortable, or his mother, overstating how skittish he was? I don't know.
Right. Yeah, and his twin sister Stephanie said that her brother became very secretive in the 2 weeks before he died.
Mm-hmm.
And the mom, Sandy, also corroborated that assessment, saying that she became concerned when her son stopped studying and started to miss school. So something was going on. Something happened in that amount of time, in my opinion, those 2 weeks. There was something definitely going on because he was studying to be a nurse, and he was very much invested in that. And I don't feel that he would have missed school and stopped studying if something wasn't going on.
No, I agree.
So,
Yeah. There's something, like I said, you have to check. The victimology of Stephen has to be followed up, not only for the final hours, days, weeks, or months, because they'll see what did cause that change in his, and that's how you solve cases.
yeah,
Because in that community, there's only so many people, and he knew his paths crossed with whoever committed this offense within those last days. I have no question about that.
yep.
And I don't
And
think it's going to be that hard of a case once you get the ones that understand and have worked homicides and will apply the proper techniques and questioning and analysis, that they'll come up with an answer, I would think, soon.
well, the police interviewed a gentleman named Mark Bickhart, who's an older man who claims that he and Stephen were in a relationship.
Yes.
And according to the notes on this that officers made, he insisted that Smith's death was the result of foul play, but he confused his own timelines. He reported anonymous phone calls that promised he would die like his boyfriend and accused Sandy Smith of harassing him. He also posted ramblings on Facebook aimed at Smith's family and blaming them for his death. So that is really weird to me as well. And then the tips start, like I said, within a month of Stephen's death, the tips started coming in about the Murders. So, I mean, Buster's 26 years old. He is the only surviving son of Alec Murdaugh, who was just now sentenced to 2 life consecutive terms for killing his brother and his mother. And, I feel for him. I honestly can't imagine what that young man is going through emotionally with the loss of both parents and his sibling, and how he's trying to reconcile all of that.
Oh yeah. Yeah. And what is it? He, of course, he denies any involvement, and
Yes. He has finally come out and said that he in no way had any responsibility in this case. He did not do anything to him, and in regard to the horrendous rumors, there's no validity to those either. And I'm assuming when he said that, he was talking about the fact that the rumors that they were having a relationship, some sort of a sexual relationship. So I think he's denying that as well, even though he doesn't actually come right out and say it. But there's been so many tips. I mean, there's been tips that it was one person and that it was Buster and another person, or that, that there were friends and they were all out there, and it all just one thing led to another and they struck and killed him. I mean, there's just so much. And there's, like I said, there's so many unanswered questions. And I thought the timing was interesting that they reopened this investigation right after the ending of the Murdaugh trial.
Yeah, that's and the way they phrased it. Actually, I had a slide on that tonight about that. Now that case has been adjudicated, that they're going to maybe people will be more willing to speak.
Yeah, exactly. So it goes back to, at least the people in that county were afraid to talk out or speak out against anything that involved or possibly involved the Murdaughs. But you and I both know from covering Delphi, especially, that in these small towns where everybody knows everybody and everybody knows everybody's business, it seems. And there's a lot that people know and they won't talk about.
Yeah. Um, and well, with Delphi though, that it absolutely shocked me that other people, um, we had never heard of Richard Allen. I
Yeah,
mean,
no,
it wasn't
none of us.
something that was spread among the community. Never.
None of us. I
No.
mean, and he was known in the community. Stop and, he
Yeah, he
was.
was known, hiding in
Mhm.
plain sight. You couldn't have. That's about the best description you'll ever get of anyone. Is a Richard Allen's case of hiding in plain sight. And
Oh,
is
yeah.
that going to be the case on whoever this prominent individual on the Stephen Smith case, that he told his mother and his sister and family that, oh, I have a new interest or a relationship with someone that would shock the community if they knew. And there's certain dangers in that.
For sure. And especially if this person is well known or is a person of prominence in the community, and they don't want that to come out, that can put you in all kinds of precarious situations with your life, I would think.
Absolutely.
And I think it's funny because when Sandy announced on that her GoFundMe had reached enough to pay for the exhumation of Stephen's body, that's when SLED came out and said, we're going to relist this as a homicide and start reinvestigating it. I thought that was interesting that it coincided with that.
Yeah. Well, that, and they said that you don't really need to exhume it. We'll say it's a homicide, which I didn't like that.
Yeah, I didn't either, because I was like, you need to exhume it and somebody needs to look at him or look at
we're
the
going to
body
get that second opinion.
and get a second opinion. Yeah.
And if there is corruption there, if it turns out to be worst case scenario, which I hope it doesn't, but there is that possibility. And if it is, okay.
Yeah.
There'll be a lot to be answered for.
Yeah. And I saw earlier somebody mentioned in chat that, regarding the whole Murdaugh thing, and I stayed out of it. I really didn't cover the Alex Murdaugh trial on my channel or anything and stuff. But my Lord, the people that have died that are connected to this family, it's just crazy. The housekeeper, in my opinion, that case needs to be reopened and relooked at, because they deemed hers a slip and fall, and I don't necessarily think that was a slip and fall. I think it may very well have been on purpose.
Yeah, and I think they blamed it on the dog or something.
Yeah, she supposedly tripped over the dog. I just think that case needs to be re-examined. I really do. Especially when he told the family, don't worry about it. I'll take care of everything. I'll pay for everything. I'll do everything. And come to find out, months before this happened, he took out this huge insurance policy on his residence for stuff like this to, in case people were hurt, while they were there or whatever. And then he was able to file against that and ended up with $4 million in insurance money for her accident that was supposed to go to her two sons. And he obviously didn't give any of it to the family or to the two sons. He embezzled all of it. But
yeah, I don't know anything about her other than that. I heard the dog thing.
Yep.
And that he stole money from the settlement. And that.
Yep. So like I said, when you hear stuff like this, that's so bizarre, the case, it's intriguing. So it definitely makes you want to know. But I think it will be interesting to see where the case progresses from here. I just want Sandy to get some resolution, and at least to know that everything she did to fight for Stephen the last 8 years hasn't been in vain. You know, she knew that her son didn't die in an accident, that this was a murder, and somebody needs held accountable for.
Well, if it goes to court, I don't even know where they're going to begin questioning the officers as far as what evidence was on the scene, because you're going to have officers saying, no, it wasn't a wreck. We knew it 8 years ago. And then everyone that, it will be a mess of proportions that we have never seen in the court system.
Yeah, no, exactly. For sure. For sure. Yeah. Erna said that Maggie told the 911 operator that the housekeeper fell down the steps, but Alex said she fell up the steps. So there was a lot of things that was weird in that
Yeah.
whole
Well, we
situation.
know there's no bigger liar in the world than Alex.
Exactly.
So I take that for what it's worth. That
And you blame the dog because, the dog can't talk and tell you what happened. Sure, people trip over animals all the time, but this just seemed, that to me, that just seemed too, because of what happened and how, he had it planned. He got he got that big insurance policy just right before this accident. It just seems too convenient. And
yeah,
I
I know nothing about any of that. That's all.
I just believe
amazing.
Gloria needs as much, she needs justice just like everybody else and her
Of course.
family.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So but anyway, it's interesting and just crazy. Like I said, crazy family. One of those huge southern families that had a lot of power. And like you said, when you get that kind of a power going on, and that's the thing that people don't see or understand. We have the same thing going on in Carroll County in the Delphi case, because we have a couple of families in that county that have a lot of power. And they hold a lot of different positions of power. And when you get people that are all related, that are speaking of Flora, that are the fire chief, the fire marshal, fire marshal investigator for the state, you've got all these, you start thinking all kinds of things about how can that even be proper? How can you have your state inspector for fires be inspecting his own son? I don't know. I thought that was interesting. There's just a lot. But Flora needs justice as well. And
Oh, absolutely.
and
it is a messed up. I've got to go by Flora. I was up there a month ago, I think. When I was coming back through, I went back and looked at the new bridge, and
what'd you think?
Oh, it's absolutely amazing what they've done there, and what was the purpose of it? Is it getting ready for court? Probably so.
Yeah.
As far as that first platform, what you can see from there or not, but there's so much about that, the argument about Richard Allen. I don't know how. I'm like you. I'm just befuddled how anyone could say that it's not. He didn't have a part in it that day. I just don't see it.
Yeah, I'm the same. I just absolutely don't see it. I just he's him. He's him to me. It's just how I feel. But yes, CJK, it's actually in the documents about Stephen. I just said that there's a gentleman who claimed to have had a relationship with him, and they are law enforcement is aware of him because they did talk to him and interview him about Stephen. and I was looking, his name is Bickhart, Mark, M-A-R-C, Bickhart, and he's the one who acted really bizarre after it came out, that he was claiming that he had a relationship with Steven. So I don't know if his claiming is true, but yeah, that's the person, and the officers have interviewed him. So very interesting there too. But I'm glad that you were able to go by the bridge, because I've been wanting to know what, I haven't talked to anybody that's been out there. I don't know, Hoosier may have been out there, but I'm not sure, to see what it was actually like that had been there before,
Oh, yeah.
prior to, because I know a lot of people were afraid to go on the bridge before, because it was so dangerous. And now you can walk out there
Yep.
and get a kind of a perspective. But I agree with you. I think the reason that all happened was they're preparing for jurors to be able to be brought out there to see that whole location, so that they can get a feel for what the girls would have went through.
Well, you can see that there's no passing by Richard Allen on the first platform.
Right, exactly. Yeah.
Yeah, if they're going to prove that point, what they constructed is perfect for the fact that you can go out to where the first platform was, and now you can go out there and not fall off the bridge where the first platform was.
Yeah.
And look down the trail and look across the bridge and see everything they see. And so it will be and part of the court issue if they let the jury go out there. Don't know if they will.
Yeah. So we've got a few questions.
Sure.
One of them is from Erna Ansbach, and Erna says, I wonder if Koberger knows that the governor signed the bill to reinstate the firing squad in Idaho. Well, as much as he's following his own case and what's going on in Idaho right now, I can't see how he would not know that.
Yep.
John says, how could he kill 4 people in such a short period of time if they were awake? You want to speak to that?
Well, the death of each, he may have incapacitated each 4 people. They doesn't mean that they were dead when each of them were clinically dead at the time he left them, but they were fast approaching that. They were incapacitated, unable to defend themselves, and then he went to the next one. I do find it that in that small period of time, and I feel confident that at least one of them has his DNA. You don't have 4 violent encounters without a transfer of DNA. I was never tested for DNA, but I'm absolutely sure I had my DNA was on them and their DNA was on me during all my violent encounters I've ever had, and that was just even the most people I've ever had to fight in my life at any one point was 3, and I know all their DNA was on me. I don't know how much of mine was on them, but I would think that all that evidence will come into the court, and it will be proven that it is him. No ifs, ands, or buts about it.
Yeah, I think that they have enough there as well. And I would be highly surprised if they don't have some of his DNA on one or multiple of the victims, because it just seems incredible to me that they wouldn't have. That was such a violent scene. And again, how does he do it? If you have a knife and you have the element of surprise, you can inflict, wounds that will incapacitate your victim very quickly. And I believe
there's
that's
a term,
what happened.
violence of action.
Yeah, I believe that that's what happened, all except for Xana.
Yep.
And I think Xana knew what was coming because she saw what happened to Ethan, and she fought like hell, is basically what they said. She had defensive wounds on her hands that almost severed her fingers. So, I mean, she was fighting him.
Yeah.
So,
Okay. Yeah. And he, at that point, he was probably getting pretty weak, and that may how come he walked past the fifth, the surviving witness.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah, he's exhausted.
Yeah.
Because fighting 5, 10, 15 minutes is exhausting.
Yeah, most for sure. Josh asks, what significance could the Ziploc bags of garbage be? Some counter forensic reason? I can't think of anything.
I can see wearing gloves taking out garbage. Don't have a problem with that. Cleaning, some people clean with gloves on, and they make household gloves that you can clean your kitchen with. I understand that. But he took it to the next generation level.
Well, he didn't. I think he was putting the garbage in these bags in hopes that no one would check it. Nobody, he didn't want it. He was trying to preserve and protect his own DNA. He didn't want somebody to find his DNA. So he was trying to get rid of stuff and thinking that this was going to be the way to do it, I think.
I have no idea. I can't put myself in the mind of some deranged individual that would do this, and I have no idea.
I was just going to be like, who knows? Because, in his mind, he might be a germaphobe. We don't know. And if he is a person who's afraid of germs or whatever, then, this could be another thing that he was doing. I have no clue. But what got me was he was throwing only his garbage away in his neighbor's trash receptacle, which led me to believe that he figured if they're watching me and they're picking up my trash, they're not going to get my trash from my garbage. But he didn't realize that forensically, they can get his DNA from his parents. So they can match them and say, oh, this guy's his father, which is exactly what they did.
Yeah. I'm telling you, it's, you think you've seen it all, and then, of course, the next case comes along.
Exactly. Jeff says, I hope the maid's case is reopened and truth comes out. The case was covered up to benefit the Murders. Yeah, I agree with you on that. So I definitely do. I feel that that there was a lot covered up there, and I definitely believe that that case needs to be reopened. Definitely. I don't know what that is about. Hold on a second. Yeah, it was definitely horrific. Okay. Oh, Candace says, Carter said the Flora Fire mother refuses to sit down with investigators for a candid, unfettered conversation about who was in that home in the days and weeks leading up to the fire. And I've never heard him say any of that. I've heard him say that the family, not the mother, he said the family has refused to sit down, which I refute that because I have had contact with the family, and the family has stated unequivocally that that is not true. And when you talk to Galen, she has had no contact at all with law enforcement for well over almost 3 years. None. Not one phone call, not one email, not anything to ask her anything. So I don't believe that. I mean, if they were trying to get her to talk, she is willing to talk to anyone. She wants this case solved. So I don't buy it. I just don't buy it. And that's me speaking directly to Doug Carter, who I respect. Trust me, I do. I respect him. I don't always agree with him and how he's handled this case. What I think people tend to forget about Doug Carter is that he's more of a politician than he is a law enforcement officer because of the position that he holds. And so we have to remember that about him when he's talking about cases. But nevertheless, I do think it's very interesting that he went to Flora and sat there and looked at the house and thought about the girls on the day that he was to appear in court, or not appear in court, but appear before the press to announce Richard Allen's arrest. I thought that was quite interesting that he would go there.
Yeah. Oh yeah. The only issue I ever had with Doug Carter is those sketches. That's the most confusing thing I ever seen as far as the Delphi was the sketches, and then the age addressing those sketches that he. But that's the only thing I ever had a problem with Carter.
Yeah, the whole sketches thing is mind-boggling to so many, and I think at some point I hope we get a reason as to what the heck they were doing with with all of that. It created, I don't know if they were purposely trying to create confusion or what they were doing, but man, it really did it. If they weren't, it really did. It worked.
Yeah.
So I absolutely do not for any reason believe that Galen had anything to do with her 4 daughters' murder. I don't believe that she or anyone in her family had anything to do with this case. And that's my feeling. I think it's really convenient in this particular case for law enforcement to try to say things that might lead people, especially the public, into thinking that. I know Doug Carter has said the same thing about Flora that he said about Delphi for years, that they were just one piece away from solving it. So come on, Doug, get it solved. Where's the piece? What is it that you need that's one piece away? You know, a lot came out in the depositions that were done when with Galen's federal lawsuit. And I think that if people really want to find out what happened in the Flora Fire, they need to read those depositions, because there's a lot of very suspicious activity that was going on by members of that community, and it had nothing to do with the family. So, what is this? Was it the what? The United States Marshals? Or it was the Indiana State Marshals. Oh, she's talking about the U.S. Marshal Service. Mm-hmm. Yeah, the U.S. Marshal Service was involved in the Delphi case. Doug Carter told us the U.S. Marshals were involved. They also were involved in the Idaho case. Steve can probably speak to that, but the U.S. Marshals do a lot.
They do.
Law enforcement. They are
they
not
have a fugitive unit. They have a fugitive unit that's second to none.
Yeah, they do a lot. They don't just transfer and move prisoners. They do so much more than that.
Oh, they do. They do.
Yep, they definitely do. And they're working a lot, I know, on the CSAM stuff across the country. They're working a lot to try to break that stuff. So my hat goes off to them, men and women.
They do a lot of high risk stuff that most people never realize how high risk.
Exactly, for sure. Well, Steve, it's been another great conversation with you, as it always is. I so enjoy having you on.
Oh, I appreciate you being here. I hate that I'm just so overwhelmed with stuff and trying to get this year kicked off, because we're trying to do so much more this year, and trying to reach out. And of course, there's only so many cold cases I can work at any one time, and but we've got our plan of action to be done on these 2, and then I'll move to my next ones.
The more people that find out about you and realize how committed you are, and the caring and compassionate nature that you have about how you go about approaching these cases, and interacting with the family and um, and I just think the positiveness that you bring to the cases, you're going to get more.
Oh,
Unfortunately, more and more people are going to be asking you to help because people are desperate. People,
oh, they are. There's
the
so many of
families
them
are
out there.
so desperate for help.
And then I have some that, it's just not me. There's several people out there that have skill sets such as mine, and there's foundations out there that do the same. And of course, I absolutely take my hats off to them. All of those that go out there and do that. And we're getting started in it. And it's going, we're taking baby steps and moving forward. But absolutely, I look forward to wherever we go. I never imagined I would be put in this position at this stage in my life, and I most certainly would try to do anything I can to bring whatever relief I can to
Well,
a
this
family.
community here loves you, and the community that you've built is second to none. It's just amazing how people have learned, like I said, learned about you and found out what we already all knew, and they just keep
Yeah.
coming, and I
I'm just
think
an
that
old
that's
country boy. I'm
I
just an old
just love
country
it.
boy.
But I
Yeah.
love it. I'm just an old country girl. So
Yeah.
I love it. And you and Mrs. Steve make the best pair, the way, you work so well together. And, hats off to her for all the hard work and
Oh, yeah.
dedication she's put into Cyclops and
Oh,
all
yeah.
the stuff. I mean, to me, that is one of the most amazing things that the two of you have done.
Uh-huh.
And
Yeah.
you've done a lot in such a small amount of time.
Oh, yes. And she's still, I think she's got almost every state but Hawaii. And she said, we're going to do Hawaii. And I looked at her and she said, oh, that's right. We're going to do Hawaii too. and, so, but we got missing kids in Hawaii too. So we'll work
Of
wherever.
course.
Yeah.
Yeah, of course.
And then, I don't know why we would stop with the United States. Don't tell Mrs. Steve that.
Tell her the next step is Canada.
Yeah.
She can go up there now.
Yeah. We only have a few provinces up there.
Yeah, exactly.
yeah.
And once she's done there, then she can just move to Mexico because Mexico will overwhelm her. I'm sure there's a ton going on down there. But yeah, no, we really do appreciate you. And I appreciate every time you come on with me. You're such
It's
a
an
good
honor,
person.
and I hate that I can't spend more time. But like I said, I never knew my community would be at the level it is now, and
Same.
I have no idea where it's going, and doesn't matter. Whatever is given me, I will work with, and looking
Yeah, I
forward
never
to the future.
started it for fame or fortune. I started doing this because I felt that the victims needed voices. And I started with Delphi. Delphi's been my baby. As everyone knows, I have a subreddit on Reddit. And when I started it all, it was all about Delphi. And then I found out about Flora and was furious that Flora got forgotten in the midst of all of the Delphi story. And those cases really pushed me. And then Evansdale came, I already knew about Evansdale, but it was like, there wasn't a lot going on. They weren't talking about it anymore. And so Evansdale became a thing. And then just one thing, like I said, it just snowballs. You just start getting all these emails and people cover this case. Will you talk about this case? And I've learned so much from you about law enforcement and especially the technical aspect and forensic aspect of it. I appreciate you for all of that because
thank you. I enjoyed still doing it. The government's put a lot of money into giving me certain skill sets, and I still owe it to society.
Well, we are so grateful to have you. I hope you have a great rest of your weekend.
It will.
I hope you can at least enjoy maybe one or two basketball games.
Mrs. Steve and my father-in-law, they're all into that. I've got so much yard work to do right now. Georgia's, we've hit that temperature and everything's going crazy. So there's no rest for me.
No rest for the weary.
No. No.
Well, you
But-
take care of yourself. The next time you make it up here, you let me know when you're going to be around. We do have to get together at some
We do.
point.
I look forward to it.
All
Y'all
right.
be
Well,
safe out there.
you
See
be
y'all soon.
safe too. Thank you so much, Steve. Good night.
Bye-bye.
Well, guys, that is, I can't say enough about him. He truly and absolutely is one of a kind. He is true blue, absolutely precious when it comes to being a law enforcement officer who is down to earth, who explains things so well and is easy to understand and easy to follow. And he is just, I don't know. Like I said, I've known him for a long time now, I feel, and it's just like I can't tell you how much I adore the man. He's just wonderful. So, thank you so much for all of you for being here tonight and talking about these cases with us and listening to our perspectives on them. I will be covering more of the Stephen Smith murder. We're going to really get into that, and I'm going to be talking about the three sisters in Texas because I want to follow that case as well. And so if you guys are interested in that, please make sure that you hit the subscribe button and the bell on your way out so that you know when I go live next and when you know what cases I'm covering. And yes, he has a great laugh. I love to listen to him laugh. I like to make him blush. He blushes really easily as well. So, but yeah, he and Mrs. Steve are just great people. And we're very, very lucky to have them in our true crime community. Thank you, everyone, for being here tonight. To my moderators, I love all of you. Thank you for being here. And thank you for everyone in the chat for keeping it calm and peaceful and professional and kind. You guys know that's what I demand in our channel. And thank you so much for that. I look forward to talking to all of you and seeing you all again on Tuesday night at 8 o'clock. So until then, you guys have a great and blessed weekend, and please be safe out there. Good night, everyone.